Hello, welcome to Living Arts. I'm your host, Jackie Suarez. Thank you for tuning in. We have another great show for you tonight. We're going to be speaking to Rick Agosta, and he is a musician, a songwriter, an all-around terrific guy. Rick, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you for having me.
No, it's been, my pleasure. There's so many different things that we could be talking about. You have so much going on, but I just wanted to give just a couple minutes, so my audience can get familiar with you. Just a little background on yourself and how you got started in the music business.
Okay. Well, always loved music, but one day my father came home with a long-haired kid with looked like Mick Jagger, and I was maybe 8, and he said, "I'm going to manage this. This guy's going to be a huge star." Ended up being Steven Tallarico, who's Steven Tyler. So my father took on this endeavor of kind of making his band go into a really good direction. Got him signed to a record label, and I kind of just was fortunate enough to be tagging around as this history was being made. And you can't help but be bit by the bug when you're in somebody's basement and they're playing Stone songs and they're playing Bird songs and Yardbird songs, and it's just rock and roll. It's exciting, and the drums and everything's shiny, and you're going to shows, and it's just it's show business at its best. And Steven was always a great performer. So as soon as he took the stage, it was like he's going to be a star, So we just got all wrapped up into it, as we did with the Beatles and the Stones, and we being me and my two brothers and I, and then that's it. We were bit. We were bit by the bug.
So what happened for you first, like playing an instrument or songwriting?
Well, my brother Peter was a drummer, and my brother Paul played the sax. And I wanted to play the piano, but we lived in an apartment in the Bronx, and I always got the story of we don't have room for the piano, which I never bought that because we had a big living room, a real big couch that we didn't need. Put the piano there. That's the way I felt about it, but that never happened. So I just started looking at my brothers, playing and taking lessons, and when they weren't home, I played their instruments. And eventually my brother Peter brought home a guitar, and I kept looking at it, and in those days, you didn't play with your brother's stuff, so.
So were you the youngest?
I was the youngest. You could tell, right? So I didn't want to get beat up. But that was it. He had a Hagstrom and a Fender Twin Amp, and I started playing it and just, teaching myself. Bought the first book and went through it. And pretty much that's what I was doing for a lot of my childhood. I was asthmatic, so I love sports, but it prevented me from really being as active as I wanted to be.
An outdoorsy kid, yeah.
So I just kept playing. Eventually, my brothers were in cover bands, and they started looking for guitar players, and they bring their friends over, and I would just, play for 8-10 hours in the room, and I'd hear like whispers, like, "Oh, what about your brother? He's not, he's listen to him. They didn't want me in the band because they basically didn't want me to know what they were doing. Figured I'd rat them out or something. I don't know, or maybe they just didn't want to drag me into the world of rock and roll, but it didn't work. And through that, we ended up having a band of our own, and we decided to be original from the get-go. So we were writing songs at 13, 14, and
Wow, so this has been happening for you for a really long time.
Always, and we were actually called Fastball, and that's basically all we used to do is just write, and then we wanted to find places to play. And you had mentioned Twisted Sister before. We started playing places like in our teen years, the Rising Sun, all the places around Yonkers, and recording. We recorded at Backstreet Studios in the Bronx where Kiss were hanging out, and
oh yeah.
I just loved it so much that it just becomes a part of you, and you can't really imagine yourself not doing it. So that's just where it all came from.
Where it all came from. So now you've been, a mentor, and you've done so much with the record label that you've started.
Right.
So now that's also a part of the band you're currently in, which is the Bourbons.
Right.
So why don't you go ahead and tell us about that?
Okay, so I guess about 20 years ago, I met a guy named Mike Cerullo, who became my real songwriting partner. I'm going to say it's more than 20 years ago because I'm way off base here. But, and at that time I had written mostly music, and he had some tracks, and he just asked me, do you write lyrics? And I didn't really at the time because my brother Peter was always the one who wrote the lyrics, but I lied because that's what you do. If you want to get ahead and if you want to get whatever it is to the next step, you got to fake it till you make it. So I was like, yeah, sure, I write lyrics, okay, give me that track. So we started writing, We started working at a place called the Loft Recording Studios in Bronxville, which is the
I've
home.
heard of it.
Which was the home of Rihanna when Rihanna first came over. A guy named Al Hamburger brought her over with Carl and Evan, and they pretty much made her into a star. And we were fortunate to have a room there because there was a guy named Phil Caggiano who believed in me and Mike, and set us up in a room just to write, and got us a few things placed on albums, which was a real thrill for us. We were played like on the Quiet Storm, and eventually met the third Bourbon. Now this is going back all those years ago, which is Matt Noble. Now Matt Noble is a major producer in Westchester. He's produced Southside Johnny. He's produced Rihanna. He has a gold record with Michael Jackson on a remix that he's done. He's done Rod Stewart, the songbook. He's produced. He's mixed. He plays so many instruments. So we met Matt, and we actually started learning so much from Matt because Matt was a lot more advanced than we were at the time. So we ended up actually recording some songs with Matt as well. So it evolved through the years. We all played in bands together and apart and ran into each other. And eventually Mike and I just took a little hiatus. And I would say about 6 years ago, we had one song called Blame Someone, and we just want to go and have some fun. And so we contacted Matt and said, can we get in and record? And he said yes, and the Bourbons were born. And so that's pretty much that.
And you've been together ever since?
We've been together ever since. We have 3 albums out. It's part of the Big Fan record label. Now, we did that because we have other artists that we work with, and we wanted to be able to provide the artist with everything a record company does. Promotions, videos. So we're kind of all in it. And
so this is all these skills that you've picked up over the years so that you could actually represent an artist and be their management.
Right.
Basically.
Right. I mean, the thing about it, and we spoke about this a little bit before, is that musicians are so cerebral. They always want to be writing. I mean, I know when I'm in a writing mode, I want to be in a writing mode, and you have to find time to promote your music. So that was something that I said to myself, at some point, you have to go out and do the promotion. You have to do it yourself. Nobody's really going to do it for you anymore.
Of course.
I mean, if you want this to sit on a CD forever when nobody hears it, it's fine. But if you really want the world to react to it and just get that feedback, which everybody loves, that's what a musician loves, because it's a lonely business to write a song, and you feel like, you get, your mom goes, that's a great song, I was singing that in the kitchen. I made some meatballs and I can't get it out of my head. That's great, Mom, but it doesn't, like a gazillion people in the world, I like them to hear. So, being the fact that I don't sleep anymore, I took on some of the roles of the PR. Matt is constantly in the studio. Mike's also always writing, and we actually, between the 3 of us.
Are you still at the Loft? Is that
Yes.
where Matt is? So your artists are over there as well?
Right, and Matt practically lives there. He really does. He does like 14-hour days. And he's, just as energetic about it and as passionate about it as he always was. And if you meet Matt, you'll know that he's, very generous with his abilities and what he's learned. And if he was here, he'd be doing one of those because he does.
Don't mention me. We have another guest that's been on here, and a friend of mine, Natalie Forteza, who's been to the Loft. I'm not sure if you've run into her or not.
I don't think so. There's it's actually,
a big
when
place.
You say a loft, it's like just from the A to the Z room is another world.
Okay, yeah, you don't know what's going on over there.
So, I mean, you could actually, be there and
not run into anybody.
Well, we're kind of like locked into our world and they're locked, but I've met some great people there, and if you just go there, it's just lined with platinum records.
Wow.
And it's quite an experience, but the best thing about it is it's really all about making music. I mean, whenever I've been there go back 30 years ago, whether we were rehearsing or whatever we were doing there, it was always a really good feeling of, not competition, who can help out who, and, it's a great place to be creative. That's all I can really say, and we use it to the maximum, because we, Al just helps us out so much, and we just love the place.
Yes, that's a huge benefit for the record company and for your artists to have kind of an inside guy over there to kind of guide people, and to, I'm sure you're getting a deal on the space or the time that you spend there.
Well, it definitely helps when I mean, in this business too, we try to help out people. People try to help us out. You know, help us out. So it is one hand washes the other. Matter of fact, I started doing a little cable show myself in White Plains, and I had Al on, and you know, I'm a student, so I love to pick people's brains about what they've done. And I'm always amazed by the fact that you can sit there with somebody and learn something that you never knew, and know somebody for like 30 years. And so that's what I really enjoy doing, because I feel like that's really how you learn, is by opening up and
talking and you know, sharing your experience with people and sharing your talent, right?
Right.
So
exactly.
now we're going to go ahead and show our audience a video of you guys, Mr. Bad Decision.
Okay. Great.
And you know, the audience will be able to get a little peek at your performance and your songwriting and just the whole nine.
Cool.
So this one.
Who all is in the Bourbons? Like, so
Okay.
go ahead and let me know who's in the Bourbons.
So we've got Matt Noble. We've got Michael Cirulo, myself, and Jojo Castellino is on drums. And I'd just like to say that on all three albums, we write all the material together. Everybody really does their job, and we really are a team. I mean, somebody will bring in a song idea, it develops into something else, but we work so well together, and everything is a collaborative effort, even playing the instruments, and we managed to do everything amongst the four of us in the studio. So
That's awesome.
right, so we're pretty self-contained, and for our artists as well that we work with, we also write all the material and arrange
Really?
it. But Matt's the main producer. I mean, Matt is like, gold to us. Let's put it
Okay,
that
because
way.
I kind of thought from just going over some of your website there or the fan the Facebook page for the record label that you were looking for people who had written a couple of songs here and there, and I guess you were going to go ahead and cultivate them and put together the rest of their album, but you would do the writing for it.
Well, what ended up happening with a few artists is they don't typically write that much material. They might write a song or something, or they might have written something. But I think our main thing is, except for Michael Hammond, who actually writes his own material, but some of the other artists don't write. Like we just did a project for a boy band called LTL, and we wrote the soundtrack for their documentary, which is out on Amazon right now. So we wrote 4 songs on that. The Bourbons write for the Hug Revolution, which is something I know that we were talking about before.
Oh no, we're definitely going to get into that with everybody.
So, but the Bourbons is just, we often just, there's no egos. There's none of that. There's always best person for the job. Matter of fact, we often fight about who's going to sing what song because, like you sing it, and, we just say, no, I'm out. We just say, no, this is your song to sing. So it's kind of a really good experience to be in this band because we're far beyond all of the things that bands go through, like who wrote what and who did what.
Right, that breaks people apart,
Right.
And
It's
you've been together for a while now,
Right.
so things work with you.
Right, and I think because it's positive, really good things are starting to happen for us, and it's just exciting. It's going to be exciting to back up Southside Johnny, like we were saying, at Tarrytown.
So that's October 20th.
October 20th. We go on at 8 o'clock. And and we're also getting played on the Peak right now, so that's like
that's
on the way
awesome.
over here I heard the advertisement for us. It's pretty cool. I mean, it's a lot of fun. I this is what you always dream of, how far you can take it. And at this point, we're just pushing it. We're seeing where we can go and how far we can keep.
Hey,
the
who
ball
knows? Maybe like a
rolling.
world tour is like the next stop,
There
right?
you go.
You up for that?
I'm up for anything and everything.
Good for you.
Oh yeah.
So now let's talk about the Hug Revolution.
Okay.
When I read it, I thought it was just the nicest thing that I'd come across in a long time in a world full of such cynicism and such ugliness. So why don't you tell our audience about the Hug Revolution?
Okay. Well, I was never on Facebook or on social media at all, and when I first thought about doing it, I just got all this negative, like you're not going to like it. There's trolling, there's this, there's that, and my thought was, as in any situation, if you go into it with a positive attitude, you're more apt to get positive back. And there was so much noise going on between the TV and on the computer and newspapers, so what I decided to do was get this logo of 2 people hugging, and ask for a post from every state. Somebody holding up a sign that said the Hug Revolution and their state, and I called them the ambassadors of hugs, and through that I got all 50 states. It became an obsession because like at one point I didn't have I don't know. I have to say this was
So individuals, not companies and things like that.
No, it wasn't company. It was just people who were feeling the message, and the message was pretty much. There's a few messages, but the main one is I was trying to find a common thread, and everybody either needs to give a hug or get a hug in their lifetime. I mean, and those are probably the most special moments in your life. Maybe it's, God forbid, when somebody's passing away, you hug them. Or when a child is born, the first thing you want to do is hug your baby. I mean, when you haven't seen a friend in a long time, so a hug is powerful. And I thought, well, that's the common thread, because if you take away all the things that people are just throwing at each other right now between politics and religion and what you should do, and I'm 100% right and you're 100% right, and 100% right leaves no room for any middle, if that's the way it's going to stay. And so I got to get rid of that if we're going to, not that you can't have a discussion about all of the issues that are out there, but more or less, how are we going to come together and how are we going to set a world back to where people look at each other in their hearts and not into what they do, who they are, how they, all the things that come into play. So, and we just, I say we, when I said I, it's only because I started this crazy notion by myself, but it evolved. And now the Bourbons get involved, and we start writing songs for it, and we start doing videos, because music's a very powerful medium.
Oh, of course.
And I think that if you have a song and it has the message, it's the best way to get it out to everybody, and somehow people unite, and that's pretty much what we want to do. So we have 50 ambassadors from 50 states, United States. Then we had Europe, we had India, we had Africa, we have.
And you're raising money for Steven Tyler Fund.
So, and then what we ended up doing is, again, since the Bourbons were out playing, we ended up doing a few shows for a few different charities. One was at Untermeyer Park last year, and I had actually talked to Steven, and he was pretty much, enamored by the idea of the hug revolution.
Really?
And he really liked it. And he actually gave me, he said, come backstage, I'm going to be at Lincoln Center. So I went back to see him. So my father was alive. My father used to get tickets all the time. We used to hang with him all the time. My father passed away. I really felt bad always asking him, hey, Steven. But this one time I actually called up his manager. And it's a funny story, actually, because he called me that night and I was rehearsing for a gig. And I thought it was my drummer messing around with me. So I was like, Ricky, this is Steven Tyler. And I was like, yeah. I said, man, listen, that song Dream On, man, you stole that from me, man. I was in the room and you stole it. And I'm going off on Steven Tyler. And I was just going to, and he goes, Ricky, what are you talking about, And it was him. And I was actually mortified. And
I can imagine. He's like, I'm sorry I called you.
But then he's laughing. And long story short, he said, come backstage, at Lincoln Center. Loving Mary Band was playing. I'd like to give you a hug. I'd like to see you. And he introduced me to the people in the charity, which is Janie's Fund. And they work with girls that have been abused and whatnot. And
really? I didn't know.
And he's heavily involved in that. And they couldn't be nicer. And what I wanted to do for them, because, stars, to think about stars, as many times as I met Steven, I never looked at him. Of course, I looked at him like he's just humongous star. But he was always so personable with my mom, my dad, and he really is like a genuine person, and he understands the importance of things like this,
Sure.
So basically, the charity was open-armed as to say, we'll do some promotional work for you. And what we really wanted to do, since he's from Yonkers,
Steven Tyler is from Yonkers.
He's from Yonkers.
Wow, I'm from Yonkers. Well,
yes. So, I mean,
for the most part, I'm from Yonkers.
Yes.
You're from Yonkers?
I'm actually from the Bronx.
Me too. Okay. I guess we got my start there and then moved to Yonkers.
That's what we all did. So it just seems to be
that was a natural progression, right?
It was a progression, So long story short, we did a great concert on tomorrow, and we opened it up to raise awareness for Janie's Fund. They helped us promote it by putting it on their social media pages, which was very nice of them. And we continue to do things of that nature. And another charity we're working with is called the RMC Foundation, which is helping out children who are, not children, but adults, anybody getting into the opioid addiction right now.
Right.
And that is a family charity because my bass player's brother runs it. And that involves some New York Yankees. So we try to take the hug revolution. And one thing I always said about it was we will never make a penny from the hug revolution, because that just, always wanted to keep this pure. It's hard to keep things pure. That's when things go awry.
Because you have overhead and it's difficult to run, because I have a connection to nonprofit here in town, and just the costs of running it and how you stay alive, it's very difficult, It
is.
And then distribution of funds is always a tricky matter too.
It is. Well, I'll be honest with you. We put much more money into this than...
Right, you're spending. You're paying for the hugs.
Yeah, we spend, but it's really so necessary right now. And I feel almost sometimes it's like this little, like David and Goliath story, like the...
if it makes you feel good, it's worth it,
right. And it's necessary, Jackie, because what's really happening is, I look at it like, when we were growing up, we heard love songs. We listened to the Beatles, and our parents was like, "Those guys are drug addicts. You don't want to listen to those." But the truth was, it was love songs. And I feel like kids really just don't know that you could really enjoy the positive light in this world. We have to put it out there, and it's musicians. It's almost our
duty.
It's our duty.
Well, you know what, Rick? We've been having such a nice conversation here. The time has just passed. So before we head out, I want to go ahead and let you give a way for the audience to get in touch with you in regards to the record label and your band and on the whole nine, the Hug Revolution. So let us know that. Okay.
So Rick Agosta, Agosta, on Facebook is the best way to get in touch with me because I'm always on there. We also have the Bourbons Facebook page, Big Fan Records, LLC on YouTube. We have a whole bunch of our videos there. We do lyric videos. We do some fun stuff.
All right.
The Hug Revolution as well is also on.
So all of that
Facebook.
information is on there. Thank you so
Pretty
much
much.
for coming to the show. We appreciate having you here. And
Thank you for having me, Jackie.
less bugging, more hugging, right?
That's right. Less bugging, more hugging.
Okay,
That's
terrific.
what we need.
All right, Living Arts audience, thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the show. Definitely check out Rick, check out the band, and start hugging people. We're going to leave you with the video clip of The Power of Song. So great to see you. Peace.
I can't right all your wrongs or bring back something that's gone. I can take away some of your pain with the soundtrack to your rain. Make you feel like you're back home when you're far away and feeling alone. Put your mind at ease. That's the power of song. Make you feel like a kid again. Make you feel like you ran into a long lost friend. That's the power. Well, that's the power of song. Make an old man dance, make a young girl cry. Be the life of the party, save someone's life. That's the power. That's the power of song. It gets stronger when everybody sings along. Na, 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 na. Na, 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 na. That's the power of song. Well, I don't know when it begun, or even where it comes from. It's as old as the sun and the moon. Blooms like a tulip in June. Yeah, it says what you're trying to say when your own words get in the way. Let you just let it be. That's the power of song. Make you feel like a kid again. Make you feel like you ran into a long lost friend. That's the power. Well, that's the power of song. Make an old man dance, make a young girl cry. Be the life of the party, save someone's life. That's the power. That's the power of song. It gets stronger when everybody sings along. Na, 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 na. Na, 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 na. Make an old man dance, make a young girl cry. Be the life of the party, save someone's life.